ISIS is honoring President Obama. He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS, okay? He's the founder. He founded ISIS. And I would say the co-founder would be crooked Hillary Clinton. Co-founder, crooked Hillary Clinton.
We also have a history of kind of moving in and out of Pakistan. I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago. And we did it because we were locked in this struggle with the Soviet Union. They invaded Afghanistan, and we did not want to see them control Central Asia. And we went to work. And it was President Reagan, in partnership with the Congress, led by Democrats, who said, you know what, sounds like a pretty good idea. Let's deal with the ISI and the Pakistani military, and let's go recruit these mujahideen. And let's get some to come from Saudi Arabia and other places, importing their Wahhabi brand of Islam so that we can go beat the Soviet Union. And guess what? They retreated. They lost billions of dollars, and it led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. So there's a very strong argument, which is, wasn't a bad investment.
Hillary Clinton has described already the meeting in the White House over 2 years ago. Everyone in the national security team recommended arming ISIS.
As I've said before, this aspect of our strategy was moving too slowly, but the fall of Ramadi has galvanized the Iraqi government. So with the additional steps I ordered last month, we're speeding up training of ISIL forces, including volunteers from Sunni tribes in Anbar province.
We have gone full circle from opposing Al-Qaeda, which sent 3,000 Americans to a flaming death on 9/11, complete circle to where we now supply them, we arm them, we finance them, and it's all coming with the approval of the highest authorities in the United States government. There are no moderate rebels. The notion is a fantasy. They do not exist. Mm-hmm. And yet, I think yesterday, President, or rather Secretary Kerry was out there saying, well, we've got to help the moderate rebels. The moderate rebels are Al-Qaeda, who flew the jets into the Twin Towers, and today these are the moderates.
Right.
So this is where we have come.
We're on the side of the moderates. We're going to be with the moderates. They'll grow in strength, and we can begin, indeed, to isolate ISIL itself.
You're not going to deal effectively with this threat unless you understand what the source of it is. It's not just the zealousness of radical Islam. It's fed and fueled by the geostrategic ambitions of powers in the region. Mm-hmm. They're reaching out. Let me explain what people in the region will tell you. If you ask them, say, what's going on with ISIS? You know what they'll tell you? They'll say very candidly, the only people that will fight the Iranians and the Shia and Hezbollah are these zealous religious nuts. And all the Sunni powers were using them. They created a Frankenstein.
One of the reasons why ISIS has been emboldened is because we've been arming their allies. We have been allied with ISIS in Syria. They have had a safe haven because we have been arming the rebels to keep Assad away from them, and now they go back and forth.
The goal for both of them, the goal for the United States, is twofold. As I've stated, it's one, to make sure that we destabilize Syria, destabilize the conflict there.
We're going to turn now to that surprise mission to Syria for Senator John McCain. He secretly crossed the border into the war zone yesterday to meet with rebels trying to overthrow the Assad regime and build support for arming those fighters. ABC's John Carl has the details from Washington. John, this comes as Europe is lining up behind McCain's campaign for more military aid to the rebels.
That's right, George. The European Union has now lifted its arms embargo on Syria. That is the first step towards getting heavy European weapons to the Syrian rebels. McCain crossed over that border with Turkey in great secrecy. He met directly with the top Syrian rebels to make the point that they deserve all the support the United States can can give. And George, this was with such secrecy that not even his daughter knew that he was going there.
I am concerned about this report about Syrian rebels and the ceasefire with ISIS. Senator Paul,
that's not true.
Well,
it's not true.
It's not true.
Whether I don't care about the report. I know these people intimately. We talk to them all the time.
Let me ask you about what your colleague Rand Paul said about it this morning. He said it's a mistake to arm them. Most of the arms that we've given the so-called moderate rebels have wound up in the hands of ISIS because ISIS simply takes it from them, or it is given to them, and we mistakenly actually end up giving it to some radicals. Look, things are very...
Has Rand Paul ever been to Syria? Has he ever met with ISIS? Has he ever met with any of these people? No. We're going to have a fight because it's patently false. This is the same Rand Paul that said we didn't want to have anything to do with anything to do in the Middle East, by the way. I don't want to get in a fight with him at all. Yeah. But it's not true. I know these people. I'm in contact with them all the time.
You tell the story about how you tried to find out what they call the Mossad when they deal with publicly?
I thought it was a reasonable question, but the trouble is you can't pick up the phone book. There's no Langley in Israel that you can look up, CIA, or in our case, the Mossad. We thought we should ask, what shall we call it in English? You can translate the Hebrew words, as I said, Mossad is institute, but when they write a letter to their friends in the CIA or the British intelligence, what do they call themselves? It took a while. It was a matter of asking the Prime Minister's spokesman. The best you could do, because officially the Mossad is under the Prime Minister's office. And I think he sort of wondered why you want to know and all that, so we explained. And he came up with the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. I mean, if it were to have initials, it would be ISIS. Just simple words like that. Interestingly enough, kind of a British model.
I'm about 2 miles, 2 kilometers from the Syrian border in an old cemetery. And behind me, there are Israeli troops massing. There's a jeep, there's an ambulance, and over here on the far side, I don't know if you can see it, there's an armoured vehicle as well, because it's a dangerous operation. They're going to be rescuing 4 wounded Syrians, badly wounded Syrians, including fighters, from the border and bringing them into Israel for treatment. And also they're going to be taking some Syrians who've been treated and delivering them back over the border into Syria. This is quite a remarkable operation for the Israeli Defence Forces to carry out, considering the fact that they are officially at war with Syria.
The journey to the Syrian border is tense, but the soldiers find what they're looking for, an unconscious alleged rebel militant with serious gunshot wounds who's been dumped just across the border. They give him first aid and transfer him as quickly as possible to an armoured vehicle, as there's a real risk of ambush. In Syria, forces loyal to Assad, supported heavily by Shia Iran and Hezbollah, are fighting Sunni rebels and jihadis. It's these Sunni rebels that Israeli medics are helping. Analysts believe that Israel is acting on the basis that my enemy's enemy is my friend, as by far its #1 threat is Iran and Hezbollah. Israel, however, points out that it also treats civilians.
So to be clear, Israel does not have a preference between the rebels and Assad. It's whoever sticks to this description.
I think we have no preference. No.
Okay, you say no preference. There have been reports that Israel has been treating wounded Syrian rebel fighters in its hospitals on the border, including fighters from Nusra Front, which is, of course, the al-Qaeda proxy in Syria. Do those reports worry you that Israel's helping wounded al-Qaeda-aligned fighters?
As I said before, in a different context, it's always useful also to deal with your enemies in a humane way. And I think that when you have people who are wounded and you can deal with them in a humane way, the considerations as to whether to take them in are not simply whether it's politically useful or whether it's politically
So it's purely humanitarian, you say? So there's no tactical or political strategic...
I didn't say there's no tactical. I said the main consideration, the immediate consideration is humane.
But the tactical issues involved, I mean, you know better than me the phrase blowback. You don't think there's going to be blowback against Israel if you get into bed with a group like Nusra Front?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be blowback.
Why?
Because I think that, unfortunately, the rules of the game in Syria are such that you can do anything that is not possible to be done anywhere else.
Yeah, I think people said that in Afghanistan too. Would you also treat Hezbollah fighters?
No. I would not treat...
Have you not just contradicted what you told me 60 seconds ago? But humanely treating your enemies?
No. I think as far as Hezbollah fighters are concerned, with them we have a different account.
So let me be clear, you're happy to treat Al-Qaeda fighters, but not Hezbollah fighters?
We have a different account with Hezbollah, a totally different account, because Hezbollah has carried out the type of actions against us which preclude us from going into what the Al-Qaeda has done. Al-Qaeda, to the best of my recollection, has up to now not attacked Israel.
But it's attacked your number one ally and protector and sponsor, the United States of America. There is a quote-unquote war on terror being going on for 15 years.
First of all, when it comes to fighting Al-Qaeda in intelligence and in other areas, yes, we are together with the United States on all these things.
Okay.
But Israel was not specifically targeted by Al-Qaeda, and therefore it's a different kind of account than we have with Hezbollah.
ובתוך סוריה יש הרבה מאוד גורמים, זה גם המשטר, וגם איראן, וגם חיזבאללה, וגם רוסים, וגם דאעש, וגם אל-קאעידה. אתה צריך לקבוע מדיניות אחראית ושקולה, שבה מצד אחד אתה שומר על האינטרסים שלך, ומצד שני אתה לא מתערב שם. כי אם ישראל מתערבת במעמדה הרגיש לטובת צד אחד, היא משרתת את הצד השני. שלשמחתי המדיניות הזאת ממשיכה להתקיים. מי שמפר את ריבונותנו מיד חש את זרוענו או את הנבוט, כפי שקוראים לזה במזרח התיכון, וזה גם קרה הלילה. זה תמיד לשמחתי. במקרה הזה, במקרה הזה זה תלוי מאיפה ירו, אבל רוב המקרים הללו זה יורים משטחים שהם תחום האחריות של המשטר הסורי.
This is the first time ever that an Israeli military official has acknowledged that Israel has been providing aid to rebels fighting against the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Now, what we're hearing from Gadi Eisenkot, who essentially is spilling the beans of what has been until now a badly kept secret, he says that Israel has been supplying rebels with light weapons for so-called self-defense.
United Nations observers recently reported witnessing IDF soldiers allowing what appeared to be two unwounded rebel fighters into Israeli territory.
Cette histoire d'État islamique, d'un bout à l'autre, elle est bizarre. Autant il est facile de définir un groupe comme l'ETA ou comme Action Directe en disant c'est un groupe terroriste, c'est-à-dire c'est 40 individus qui ont un grief terrible avec un État et qui posent des bombes, ou même les Brigades Rouges qui étaient plus nombreuses que ça. Vous avez des gens qui, pour une raison idéologique ou patriotique quelconque, veulent faire sécession, veulent la fin d'un État, etc. Auquel cas c'est simple à comprendre. Dans le cas de l'État islamique, on est loin de ça. Aucun groupe terroriste dans l'histoire de l'humanité n'a eu plus de chars d'assaut que l'armée française, ce qui est le cas. Je vous garantis que mes sources ne sauraient être meilleures pour vous dire ça. Donc à l'heure actuelle, l'État islamique dispose de centaines de chars d'assaut, des véhicules blindés légers qu'on appelle les Humvees, des sortes de grosses jeeps un peu perfectionnées. L'État islamique en possède plus de 5000. Donc ça n'est pas un groupe terroriste, c'est pas à l'échelle. Est-ce une guérilla? Non plus. Puisque une guérilla, c'est clair, on connaît ça depuis la guerre révolutionnaire de Mao dans les années 30, ce sont des gens qui attaquent l'armée ennemie et qui se replient. L'État islamique ne se replie pas, il attaque, il occupe le terrain, il se crée son fief et il y reste. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Eh bien, la seule explication possible quand on a éliminé tout ça, c'est que l'État islamique est une armée mercenaire, une armée, une vraie, mais mercenaire, et nous ne faisons en pareil cas que de repousser le problème d'une case, à savoir au service de qui?
One more key development in those deadly strikes. There were, in fact, 2 other men killed, 2 Americans who had traveled overseas with a chilling mission to join al-Qaeda. One of them, Adam Gadon, known for his own videos tearing up his U.S. passport and trying to taunt America. ABC senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas on the boy who grew up in California, one of the most wanted for a decade, now dead tonight.
Listen to a terrorist threatening his own country.
The streets of America shall run red with blood.
He was a suburban California kid, a lover of heavy metal, who became one of the most wanted men on the planet. The grandson of a Jewish doctor, Adam Perlman morphed into Adam Gadon, the American mouthpiece of al-Qaeda.
I want to update you now on a story that FoxNews.com first broke about 2 weeks ago. A New York City cab driver with a website that's startling, to say the least, is called revolutionmuslim.com. The man is Muslim, says his site is intended to preserve Islamic culture, but some of the images on the site are clearly disturbing. Rick Leventhal is in our New York City newsroom at FoxNews.com. What does this guy want, Rick? Who is he?
He's a 39-year-old New York City taxi driver, as you mentioned. He calls himself Yusuf al-Khattab, but he was born Joseph Cohen here in America. He is a Jew who converted to Islam after attending Orthodox rabbinical school, which he called a racist cult.
الله أكبر الله يدق الله أكبر.
They already reject ISIL. Do you know any major Arab ally that embraces ISIL?
I know major Arab allies who fund them.
Saudi Arabia, Qatar, other Gulf states, Turkey, Jordan, ourselves, Britain, France, all fund, train, support, and ultimately are responsible for these monsters running around in their latest branded name, ISIS, which I will repeat a third time stands for Israeli Secret Intelligence Service.
The Syrian competent authorities have gathered information saying that many foreign officers, intelligence and military officers who are in the eastern part of Aleppo with the terrorist groups are trying to exit their strongholds in the eastern part of Aleppo. I will say before you their names and their nationalities. Mu'taz Oglakan Oglu, Turkish. David Scott Winner, American. David Shlomo Aram, Israeli. محمد شيخ الإسلام التميمي قطري. محمد أحمد الصبيان سعودي. عبد المنعم فهد الحريج سعودي. أحمد بن نوفل الدريج سعودي. محمد حسن السبيعي سعودي. قاسم سعد الشمري سعودي. أيمن قاسم الثعالبي سعودي. أمجد قاسم الطيراوي جوردانيان. محمد الشافعي الإدريسي مروكان.
رئيس الحكومة
بنتشكركم على العلاج وعلى الخدمة، يعني خدمة لقيناها بإسرائيل أحسن من الأردن. في عالم أنا كنت على الأردن وطلعت ما كان في معاملة، يعني معاملتهم سيئة كانت معنا.
سلامتك.
الله يعطيكم العافية يا رب. مشكورين، الله يعطيكم العافية.
We do not interfere in this terribly bloody conflict. We do, however, provide humanitarian aid to young boys and girls. It is expensive, but we will continue to invest.
לא, בשום פנים ואופן לא. היה מקרה אחד לאחרונה שדאעש פתחו בטעות והתנצלו על כוח, בטעות, הם התנצלו מיד.
Syria, as we know, is no longer exist. ISIS taking over territories in Iraq, in Syria.
Cockpit video from Israeli warplanes as they carried out the largest and most prolonged airstrike in Syria since the start of its civil war.
An al-Qaeda affiliate known as Jabhat al-Nusra has seized a swathe of land, and Syria's army is trying to take it back.
القتال طريق الحياة فبين اقتحام يبيد الطغاة وكتيم صوت جميل صدى.
A mind-boggling video that just got released by the hacker group Cyberberkut, allegedly retrieved from a media device of a member of U.S. Senator John McCain's staff in Ukraine, shows what seems to be one of the earliest beheading videos of ISIS Jihad John, being faked in a movie studio by a crew that looks anything but terrorists. Much by the opposite, they look like the average filming crew of any Western low-budget production, and the odds are that someone thought it was a good idea to have a trophy of ISIS shenanigans stored in a handheld device. A mistake that ended up resulting in what could as well be the irrefutable smoking gun proof that ISIS is a fabrication of CIA, Mossad and MI6.